would read to us a book called Shades of Black by Sandra L. Pinckney. I hated this book. It was supposed to make me feel empowered and proud of my heritage. Instead, it made me feel isolated and different. My father and his sister were sent to Canada from Trinidad by their parents to receive better schooling at the ages of 15 and 16. Then they immigrated to the U.S. to attend Howard. I was born in Washington, D.C., to a black mother and an Afro-Trinidadian father. When I was 4 years old, my family and I moved to Trinidad. For my mother, my siblings, and I, this was a new way of life. For my father, this was home. I started primary school at a private preparatory school in a suburban, mostly affluent area in Trinidad. I recall being in my kindergarten class, eager to meet other children. Not many of them looked like me, coarse pigtails sticking out of my head. The other kids caught on too and avoided me. I was alone. When I came home, I used to cry. My mother read me Shades of Black. She seemed to think it would boost my confidence. But I didn't want to stand out. I wanted to fit in. Prejudice against my own people grew into hatred, and I did everything to stay away from those generalizations. One day on the playground, I overheard a young white boy say to a black boy, "White people are angels, and black people are the devils. It's just the truth." Despite my insecure identity, I knew this was wrong by the way the black boy's face looked. Of course, I didn't say anything. Neither did he. The difference between him and I was our acceptance of being black. I was much fairer, and therefore I got much better treatment, despite still being ignored. On the contrary, children in our class would run away from the boy in fear of catching his blackness and having it rub off on them. The heartbreaking aspect of this blatant racism was that a large portion of these children were also of African descent, mixed with other ethnicities. They were simply passing. Although white Trinidadians are not a large minority, they do make up a large of the portion's wealth, and send their children to some of the best private schools. As a child, I was not exposed to the impoverished portions of Trinidad, where a significant portion of the population was of African and East Indian descent. I assumed Trinidadian's population was reflected in my student body. This was all I knew, sheltered by my gated community. Although I was somewhat aware of the racial bias students and teachers had shown towards white students, I was also blissfully in denial. I was desperate to have friends and not be ignored. Sadly, my self-worth plummeted as I dreamed of a day when I could have lighter skin and straighter hair. I would tell my mother, "I wish I looked different." What I really meant was, I wish I was white. When we moved back to the U.S. 7 years later, and as I grew older, I started to understand the dynamics of Trinidad's race problem, as well as America's. The British and Spanish colonization brought slaves and indentured workers from Africa, Asia, and Europe to Trinidad. Although an extremely diverse country, many people still carry these racial hierarchies and beauty standards reflecting Eurocentricity. Therefore, I do not blame my aunt when she asked me why my brother couldn't trade hair textures with me. I knew that she was taught by her parents, and their parents, that light and straight were better than dark and coarse. My prolonged identity crisis seemed to be something shared between many young black and brown children, in and outside of the United States. Colonization caused a lasting and dangerous effect that is still present in Trinidad society, as well as so many other countries' history. I recently listened to Shades of Black audiobook. A surge of emotion flooded through me as I remembered and reflected on the effort my mother took to ensure that her children were proud of who they were. I did not appreciate this as a young child, but as I've grown up, I've come to understand the reason for the immense struggle I went through with my identity. It would be ideal if no young black or brown children would have to go through the same situation, but for now, I'll just buy my niece Shades of Black and hope she likes it.